And we're back here at Boom and Bust with our two guests, Keith Jansa and Sai Huda, talking about cybersecurity. Just before the break, I wanted to know about the trends in cybercrime and the economic impact. We're going to allow both our guests to give us their perspectives. Keith, why don't you start us off?
Well, I think from an economics point of view, it's not surprising when you consider just one example like ransomware, where literally your organization is held hostage. It can't access its assets, whether it's the data or otherwise. There's countless articles in the news of whether it's a hospital breach, whether it's a organization that manages websites breach. That's ultimately, when you consider the economics of ransomware, well, what's that dollar figure, right? It can be, oh, I'll unlock your data, but for $1 million. And you're having to actually fulfill that transaction in order to have your assets, your data assets back in play. So it's astronomically steep with respect to being held hostage in a case like a ransomware, of which, when you consider things like website vulnerabilities, where these things come into play, where there's some pretty simple controls to be able to put in place to avoid those kinds of circumstances. So I'm just looking at it in terms of response from a micro level, just with respect to a business. A cyber attack, especially for a small medium enterprise, it could close their operations. Simply because they don't have the revenue nor the funding to be able to, in fact, meet any sort of ransomware attack.
Sai, what's your perspective?
Yeah, just to add to that, Keith said it so well, but some metrics here that everyone should be aware of. So per IBM's cost of a data breach study, which they do every year, it costs about $3 million for a small and medium organization to try to recover from a data breach. Very significant for a small and medium organization, $3 million. That's a metric to be aware of. The other one is that CyberCatch surveyed about 1,200 small and medium organizations in North America and said, how long would you be able to sustain a ransomware attack? 75% said they would only be able to survive 3 to 7 days. So that's very significant. The other thing to note is that according to IBM also, there's really 76% of how the attackers get in are from the website, the vulnerabilities, or through phishing. So that's over 3/4. And so, it's really knowing these techniques and these metrics and then saying, okay, how can we defend properly? And so that's what we've done with the standard, is put together these 55 controls that enable good defense. So for example, one of the controls that's required in the standard is to scan your websites regularly, to look for vulnerabilities and fix them. The other one is to make your employees aware of phishing, but also to test them regularly to make sure they're not going to fall victim. And the other one is to test controls. So all those are actually controls that are in the standard that'll help with the good defense. And our compliance manager solution enables all of that and continuously. So that's where innovation comes in to help solve this problem.
So, Sai, just so I understand, then as part of this certification program, basically it's a familiarity with the do's and don'ts, if I can put it that way. Is that right?
Well, the certification program is essentially saying adopt the standard, CAN CIC 104, and make sure you stay compliant, and then have a third party come in and verify that you are in compliance. So what we do with our compliance manager solution in partnership with CIO Strategy Council is provide a solution that enables adoption of the standard very easily, quickly, affordably, and then we automatically, continuously make sure they're compliant. And so when a third party comes in, it's very easy for the assessment to be complete, to say, yep, they've got the controls in place, it's being tested, they're finding issues, they're fixing them. Okay, they deserve that certification.
The other thing to note, yeah, Tony, the other thing to note is that because in many ways, an organization having that stamp from the federal government in relation to being cyber secure, it actually provides opportunities for small medium enterprises to export and to broaden their marketplace, because there's a reputation within Canada with respect to the brand and ultimately the fact that a federal entity has said, well, they've done all the checks and balances when it comes to being cyber secure. And that certainly goes a long way internationally when you're trying to sell products to other places where you have a government that's ultimately backing in many ways your operations.
For sure. We're going to continue with our guests after a short break. We'll be back after that break. Please stay with us, and we'll be right back.